Welcome. This is a special broadcast on the subject of serving your life purpose. Should you change your career? Should you head down a different life path? And this is a question that many of us have asked from time to time in our life. Generally, at a time when we were dissatisfied with what we were currently doing, obviously, and asking ourselves, should I be doing something differently? Is there a larger canvas, a different canvas that I should be painting on? Is there a higher power that is calling me to a different destiny? All these sorts of questions tend to cluster around times when we're dissatisfied with the status quo for one reason or another. Sometimes it's this persistent calling, persistent feeling, and other times there's an active dissatisfaction with what is. And in this webinar, I'm going to talk about all the aspects that are relevant to this sort of quest. You might decide, you might go down this road, go on this quest and decide, no, I don't need to change what I'm doing, or I'm going to add something as an avocation. Or you might decide that it's time for more education for a new occupation, more training for a new occupation, and how to make sure that you're getting enough education to really serve clients' needs and not just the minimum necessary to start making some money. I'm assuming that anyone who's asking this question is not primarily looking to make a quick buck. You've got a deeper questions that you're asking. So if that's not the case, then you might be bored. So you might want to turn this off and go find some cat videos to watch. I love cat videos and deer videos and dog videos. God bless laughter. It's so good for our health. But so my name is Victoria C. Leo, Leo. I am a multifunction healer. I have a lot of wonderful skills, which I put together into programs to solve specific problems. So you don't need to think about techniques. All you have to think about is, what is my problem? What do I want to change? What is bugging me? What barrier do I have that is keeping me from something, better health or more money or better relationships with my family, or I want to finish a novel, or whatever the issue is. I've got specific specific programs for specific problems, and the tools that I use are the most effective tools for what the problem is. Not working in areas where I don't have the best tools for working. I don't work with relationships in general. I don't do couples counseling, for example, but I do focus on health and joy and life purpose and blasting through creative barriers for writers and artists. And I'm a big healer of traumas, childhood traumas, adult traumas, loss of jobs and divorces and injuries and illnesses and all that sort of stuff. I'm a registered clinical hypnotherapist in practice in Oregon and Washington, and I can work via distance anywhere in the U.S., licensed anywhere in the U.S. I have been a Yesui and Holy Fire Reiki master and teacher for a long time. I'm also a Karuna master and teacher. I employ tapping And I have several other techniques that I'm certified and trained in. Everything from ADHD to depression and et cetera, et cetera. So that's me. More details, go to soaringdragon.biz, B-I-Z, soaringdragon.biz. If you want to email me, you can go to the website and then go click, or just go directly to victoria.leo.reiki, R-E-I-K-I, @gmail.com. I have a Facebook group called Healing Minds, Healing Bodies. I do a monthly newsletter of news and interesting developments for the kinds of clients that are interested in my work. And I've got a Pinterest account, Soaring Dragon. I love Pinterest. And you can find me elsewhere, LinkedIn and so forth. That's why you want to listen to me today. Oh, I'm also the author of several books. Go to Amazon or go to your local bookstore. Okay. Life purpose. A lot of my clients come to me from a spiritual counseling need, and they're asking about their life purpose. Other people are dissatisfied with their career. They come to me because they think they need a new resume. And as we talk, it becomes clear that they want to talk about having a new life. So wherever you're coming from, welcome. I have a combination of a very practical approach to what is the world as it truly is, as it is right now. And I also have a whole raft of intuitive tools, past life regressions, and all sorts of good stuff. So anyway, life purpose. What is life purpose? When someone says, I'm not sure that I'm on my true path, there's a belief in our society that we are all born for a particular destiny. And the goal then is to search, what is my one true destiny? Am I living my one true destiny? It is my belief that in some cases there is one true destiny. I imagine Nelson Mandela was born to prevent South Africa from dissolving into mass bloodshed at the end of apartheid. That was his shining hour. And other sorts of folks like that. I think most of us have a broader road, multiple possible ways to be a good person and to bring love into the world, which I believe is every human being's true destiny. How you do that, there are probably a number of ways to do that. I could have become an MD. I could have become an ARNP, with my penchant for healing. There's many, many different roads. I could have become a minister, a priest, and the purely spiritual approach to wellness, and joy, and alleviating mental suffering, through pastoral care. Lots of different roads. I don't have one possible road, and I have not been on the wrong road when I was on the roads that I was in prior to my becoming a healer. What I used to do is not less honorable or even intrinsically less my true path than what I'm currently doing. And that may be a new idea for you. And it's something I'd like you to consider. that there may not be one right answer. And there may not be one right answer for an entire lifetime. Quite a few people became parents and put their considerable intelligence and compassion and patience into raising a wonderful crop of new human beings to bring love and joy to the earth. And that was their goal and their passion and their path for 20 years. At which point they spent some time in reflection and asked themselves, what is my post-parenting new path? Not better, not worse, just new. What do I want to be doing? What does the universe / God / karma / whatever want me to be doing right now? What am I being called to do? And one thing that I also want to make very, very clear is that if you hear a loud and insistent voice towards something, this may actually be unmet, unhandled, unresolved fantasies, dreams, whatever word you want to use, from childhood that are not actually the stirrings of soul or deity. They are things that needed to be resolved and worked through and then gently sent on their way. Especially if you believe you have a special destiny, be very, very careful. That's generally the promptings of ego, the promptings of a more spiritual calling tends to be quieter. It's the voice that you hear when you are at peace, which is why when someone comes to me and says, I want to know what my true destiny is, in addition to taking them on guided journeys, I also teach them how to meditate. My book, Take Back Your Lost Heart, has excellent exercises for people who are convinced that they can't meditate or they can't visualize or they can't, do any of these. Getting your ego to shut up. Stop having your life be about you and how wonderful you are and this special destiny that, shining, lots of fame and fortune, then everyone's going to clap and, admire me. Ooh. If you feel yourself doing that, hear a red alert alarm going off. Okay. We all have these moments of grandiosity. It's part of being human. But I'm going to urge you to not confuse that with a true path. Okay? True paths tend to be quieter. Okay? And they don't involve great destinies. The truly great people in history are people who have a very small vision of themselves. A large vision of what the people around them might be able to accomplish with God's help or, through us all working together or that sort of thing. But they never think that revolution or change or the amelioration of the condition of all mankind, as George Washington put it, depends on them. And that's their humility, their intense humility is what allowed them to truly have the approbation of history. Their descendants, all of us in humanity are their descendants. So, and I, with all these caveats, I don't want to sound negative. I just want to make sure that when I'm talking about that we're talking about the same thing. I want you to understand what it is that I'm talking about when I talk about your best path right now. Knowing that it will change. That there will be a new phase in your life, unless you're 85, and you're probably not gonna live to be 150. And so, but what is purpose? Purpose is the passion that I talk about in Take Back Your Lost Heart. And passion is the kind of thing that extroverts talk about. Introverts, guilty as charged, don't talk about passion. They talk about commitment and determination. You don't need to be all emotionally wound up to have a fixity of purpose, to make a capital C commitment to something. For a lot of life changes, you need more education to be able to do a really quality job. And that is going to require determination. It's going to require years of dedicated, day in and day out effort. And you're going to need to remember why you're doing this. I feel called to help people to remove, if it's possible, mitigate, if it's not possible, the pain and suffering in their life. But please note, I did not say that I am taking their pain away. I'm saying I'm helping people who want help. I'm not the savior of the world. I'm not even the savior of them. But I feel called to help people who are suffering. And I've got some pretty formidable powers in that regard. But I still have the humility to remind people, you're the driver of this. You're the one who's climbing the mountain. You're the one who's going to have the celebration when you get there. And when you do get to your heart's desire, if you're one of my clients, you will get nagged to celebrate. Okay, just warning you. Rewards and celebrations, very important. So a purpose is this calling that you feel. And it generally involves a vision of service. A person, and please note, a person can feel a calling to be an attorney. All of the incredible civil rights victories of the last 100 years have come about because of dedicated lawyers. We really should feel guilty about all the lawyer jokes we tell, right? Attorneys are the people who have done battle. St. George with the flaming sword for the rest of us. And there is no occupation. Let me just say this. There is no occupation on the earth that is not A, honorable, potentially honorable, except for mass murderer, stuff like that. Or B, cannot be a realm of service to humanity. Gandhi said this. Dr. Martin Luther King said this. The Dalai Lama has said this. Everybody has said this. There are no holier and less holy or less honorable occupations. You can invest anything with a spirit of love and service. And what some of my clients discover is that they want to continue with their current line of work. They just want to approach it in a different way. Okay? Now, another question people are always asking me is, do I have to quit my job? Should I quit my job? And some people come to me just, on fire to, I want to start making money in my new occupation. I want to quit my job and live authentically. Unfortunately for them, every philosopher worth his salt has said you can live authentically in nearly any circumstances. The Buddha said it so beautifully. You can have a beautiful lotus coming out of a dirty pond. You're the lotus. You get to decide whether you're going to be beautiful or not. That being said, there, if you're in a poisonous interpersonal environment, with soul draining people, getting out of there will certainly make it easier for you to project the love and the service that you want to. Excuse me. Allergies. So, do you have to change your occupation? No, you don't. And please note, if you are responsible for your support, and especially if you have a family of children that you've created, regardless of whether you wanted to create them or not, blah, blah, blah. Once they're born, they're human beings and they exist and you're responsible for them. Full stop. You have an obligation to provide them with what they need, with food, with education, with your presence, with loving care, and having an adequate income. And I don't mean big screen TVs and vacations in Cabo St. Lucas. Excuse me. But adequate income allows you to not be stressed all the time, to be able to be a person of peace, a person of calmness, okay, to be able to do volunteer work to make the world a better place in your off hours. If you can't find a way to have a new, if you decide that you need a new occupation and you can't find a way to make it happen today, give you enough income to be able to fulfill your obligations to yourself and your dependents, then you need to continue doing whatever you need to do to have that income for peace of mind and for moral, to be on the side of the angels because you're taking care of your kids, and find a way to be of service to the world in this new way that you want to be, part-time, on the weekends, in the evenings after the kids go to bed. You'll find a way, and you can call me and we'll work on it together. But no, you're not actually holier or a better person if you throw your income away and leave your children bereft and give yourself such a burden of stress and worry that you can't be authentically present, loving presence for your spouse, your parents, your children, whoever is relying on you. Okay? So being in loving presence, being free of the really grinding anxiety that not having enough money brings. If you find yourself yelling at the kids because they get sick because you don't have money for a doctor, there's something radically wrong with your life. And I think you understand that. So I want to reassure you, there is nothing that is less spiritual in holding on to your cash flow until you can have cash flow in a different way. Right? And I think I mentioned that you're not going to have just one vision for your life. And the things that you used to do are not less noble than this new vision you have. Let me tell you about my life. I spent 25 years, 25 years. Actually, a little bit longer than that. Oops. Working in technology. It provided me with a good income, which was very important for somebody who had no income to go to college. I was homeless for 2 years while I was pursuing a college education, because that took a lot of determination. I really, really wanted an education. I wanted out of poverty, and I was willing to, sleep under bushes if necessary, when I didn't have rent, to ensure that I could stay in school, because I knew that that was my road to the life that I wanted. And I had a good life in technology for a long time. And at some point, it was actually in the 2001, you remember the dot-com crash? Those of you who remember back that far. I had probably been feeling dissatisfied before that point, but that provided me with the excuse, because I, along with thousands of other people, were out of work. Companies just shut down, went out of business. Large companies like Cisco and so forth cut 25% of their workforce. So it didn't mean that you weren't any good. It just meant that the business had fallen, the bottom had fallen out of business. So I use it as an excuse to go back to school and train for this new occupation. I thought I might want to be a psychologist. I wasn't quite sure. And that's the thing. A lot of us don't want to make any moves until we have absolute clarity. And I'm just here to tell you, it is not going to happen. Waiting for absolute clarity is what you're really doing is you're waiting until you are guaranteed success. And you can't do that. There are no guarantees, regardless of what, magic potions and, vision boards and, I'm magnetizing my thoughts and all this stuff. Wiser souls will tell you that there are no guarantees in life. And the more spiritual among us will say that either God exists and there's a divine plan, which, I really want this, I really want this, I really want this, is not going to overthrow. Other people will say, well, there's karma. And there's a karmic plan, which again, my visualizing and magnetizing, and I really want this, is not going to, you're not going to overcome karma. And other people will just say, stuff happens. And there's good luck, and there's bad luck, and things happen, and you meet the right person or you don't meet the right person, and you just have to be at peace. Just be at peace and don't blame yourself when things don't happen the way you want them. If you can convince yourself that there are more things in heaven and earth than you have control over, you'll be able to go through this process with more joy and less anger and less stress. And embrace your life as it turns out, and with everything that you can do. Right? One of the wisest sayings is, you cannot control the wind, but you can trim your sails. So whatever happens, do whatever you can to get yourself closer to what you think is your probable goal. But if you get blown up on an alternative shore, look around you and say, is there anything good I can do in this location? Shakespeare in Twelfth Night. Our heroine gets blown up on a shore that she never intended to end up on, and ends up having wonderful adventures and marrying the man of her dreams. She didn't know that this was a dream. Didn't even know this guy existed. But God, karma, good luck, bad luck, whatever you want to call it, blew her up on this shore. And so on. So anyway, I had been feeling dissatisfied. I decided to go explore. I took some classes. I decided, I like this. I came up with a tentative plan to have, a particular career path and get a graduate degree and so on. And I ultimately let go of that, because as the years of life and education and experiences and so on ensued, I gained additional information. I kept twice a year. I do something I call a heart map. Some people call them vision boards, but the way I do it may be different from your vision board. Anyway, in my book, Take Back Your Lost Heart, I describe the heart map. And so I was constantly trimming my sails, constantly changing, well, not constantly, but occasionally I would change the goal, right? Because I got more information. And one of the things that came along that was very sad, but it put me in places that where I gained a lot, is my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so I sold my house in California and closed down my business and my technology consulting business and my life coaching, because I took a 18-month program in life coaching, and I became a life coach. I closed down my business and I moved to North Carolina because I love my mother more than I love anything else in this world, probably, as is appropriate. So while I was dealing with this very, very sad illness, I taught college for the first time and had an adventure and discovered, wow, and decided I wanted to teach. I wanted to teach college, and I actually did that for several years, both live as seated classroom and also online. I love teaching online. I really get to know my students. But here's the thing. The industry was changing. It was becoming less and less conducive to someone like me who likes to be creative in the classroom. It was becoming more and more the sort of situation where there's stock, everything is programmed and somebody else creates it and you just answer questions and grade papers, which was not satisfying to me. So back to opening up my vision, looking, and meanwhile I was working on a graduate degree in psychology, and I encountered clinical hypnotherapy, which is a powerful, much, much more powerful than simply talking, because it goes deep, 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 deep into a person's unconscious mind. to clean things out, to heal things that a person is either not even consciously aware of, or consciously doesn't want to think about, doesn't want to admit, doesn't want to. But your inner soul knows these things. And if you can get your unconscious mind to come to the surface and tell you things, you can become a more integrated, happier person. Because, I'm going to quote the Bible here, the truth is what sets you free. So I spent 18 months then becoming, more education, becoming a clinical hypnotherapist. Lots of supervised practice. So at the end of that process, with a graduate degree and 18 months of supervised training, I really knew what I was doing. And one of the things, I'm just going to say this, when people want to have a change in their life, they will, in some cases, go for the quick. It's like, I need money. I need to start making money in this occupation quickly. I don't need that 18-month nonsense. I want to do it. I want to do it fast. I've got all this wisdom in my head. Yes, I'm sure you do. But you don't have a class in mental health ethics, which is not common sense. It's a lot more exacting. And I'm meeting more and more people these days who are graduates of a 100-hour program. No supervision, just, there's supervision during the program, but 100 hours is nowhere near enough to train you to deal with somebody who suddenly remembers a horrific sexual assault from their childhood. Common sense is not going to get you through that without potential for damaging that person and possibly getting yourself into a ethics violation. So anyway, I want to caution everyone who's listening to me today. Please think carefully. Don't rush into a Quickie program because you believe, I need to start making money quickly. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, you're probably the kind of person who doesn't want to do a shabby job. You don't want to harm people. You didn't start down this road because you don't care about what happens to people. And the thing is, if you're not properly trained, you're not doing your best for these people. It's not just a question of intention. There's an ideology out there that says you just need to have positive intentions. Nonsense. You need to also be able to execute on those good intentions. You need to know what you're doing, because if you don't know what you're doing with a power tool, you can cut your hand off. Had good intentions, yes, but you didn't know what you were doing. Even more damaging, what you can do to people who trust you when they are deep, deep, deep in hypnosis or in some other process, if you don't know what you're doing. So don't let, I need to make money quickly, panic you into going for the quickie. These 100-hour programs are wonderful if you have the basic education. Get an undergraduate and a graduate degree in psychology. BA is my opinion. I learned things in my graduate program, for example, that I never learned as an undergraduate, about ethics, about these details. Okay. My my thoughts on that subject. And I've already said, hold on to your old occupation a little bit longer to give you the income so that you can learn and do your new occupation. And if you're going to start practicing with a bachelor's degree and one of these 100-hour programs, make sure you focus on the easy surface things. Sit down with somebody like me, who's more trained, more experienced. Develop a relationship with someone like me so that I can give you the, what do you do if somebody suddenly breaks with one of these things, how to guide them out of that horror, right? And then have somebody like me that you can refer them to so that I can take care of the hairy, scary stuff because I'm trained for it. Okay? I'm not saying don't do the quickie stuff. I'm just saying be ethical, be aware, resist the urgency. Whenever you're in an emotional urgency situation, I have to do this, I have to do that. No. The only thing you have to do, truly have to do, is die someday. Everything else is a choice. Okay? Maybe an unpalatable choice. Maybe between a rock and a hard place, but you always have choices. Okay? So when you feel that urgency, that I got to do this, that's a signal. Do Reiki, meditate, stop, get centered, allow your deep wisdom to come to the fore so you don't rush into something because you think you have to. It's not a good way to make decisions, especially about your life purpose, right? You may decide your life purpose is to you really want to be a parent. So adopt. I'm adopted. Look how wonderfully I turned out. And I was not adopted as a baby. So don't worry about adopting older kids. We're wonderful. We just need love. You may decide that there's some other aspect of your life that you want to embrace, some new path you want to explore. And I use the word explore. Try things out. Don't commit to something to the exclusion of continuing to look. I keep a wide vision. I look at my heart map twice a year, once on my birthday and once at the beginning of the calendar year. So I look and see if my heart is still asking, still looking for these things that I have pictures of. Because sometimes it changes. I was in North Carolina to be with my mom until she transitioned to the point where she wasn't recognizing anybody. And at that point, it was appropriate for one of my other siblings to take over the situation. And I moved to Oregon and Washington. And I continued my education. It was actually in Washington where I got my advanced hypnotherapy training. And I continued teaching in college while I built my healing business. And I've done career coaching for large companies who are relocating employees and they have trailing spouses. So again, entrepreneurship is not nobler than being in a W-2 relationship with people. It's what serves your needs, what gets you closer to your goal. And some choices might simply be about cash flow. And I'm here to reassure you, there is absolutely nothing wrong with doing any honorable work in a quality manner. You can imbue any work with holiness and with meaning while you also pursue other things. Another question people ask me is it possible to be too young or too old for a particular occupation or particular path? And that's an interesting question, because what we all want to say is, oh, no, you're never too old. Just, follow your dreams. And I actually watched people say that to a friend of mine who was 55 years old, and he decided that instead of flying small planes for fun, he wanted to become a commercial airline pilot. And my advice was to think about, to research and get some information, accurate information about job prospects. What are employers looking for? And the reality is, as you become older, your reaction time is slower, vision issues, blood pressure, blah, blah, blah. Commercial airlines are actually not looking for people who have no experience, fresh out of commercial airline pilot school and he was going to accumulate huge debt, to pay for all this, and then not be able to get a job. And he listened to the inspirational people, and he believed, and he drew vision maps and blah blah blah. He did, and he burned incense, and he visualized, and he took journeys, and he ended up 60 years old with a huge debt and no job. And his marriage blew up too. So I am going to come down on the side of live in the real world. There may be a window for certain occupations and certain things. A lot of people who are having children, men having children in their 50s, are not really paying attention to the fact that those children are going to be teenagers and young adults in need of them at a time in their life when they are going to start needing help. And that may be satisfying to the ego. Hey, I still got it. I'm still, I can still make babies. A lot of men, and also a lot of men focused on power and money and career for 25 years, and then woke up one day and said, wow, I've completely ignored the relationship and interpersonal, and no one's going to look after me when I'm old and I need help, right? And then they seek to do that through creating babies in their 50s, which, again, from the perspective of the child, this person is not going to be getting from you what they need, because you are focused on what you needed from them. Now, this is not a blanket condemnation. Please don't misunderstand. There are many, many instances in which it makes perfect sense. And it's very lovingly done, and et cetera. In fact, I happen to know somebody who stayed married to a wife who couldn't create children, and had illnesses that made even adopting children too much of a strain. And instead of dumping her and marrying somebody else and having children, he stayed in honorable marriage with a wife who loved him and needed him, and And she finally died, and he was 48 years old, went looking for more love, additional love in his life, and found somebody. And this was a very well thought out decision. So I'm not condemning anybody, any blanket groups of people. It's an individual thing. But I do ask people to think carefully. This gentleman really, really thought it out. He had a much younger sister, and he had a younger wife, 15 years younger wife. So they were going to be there. Oh, and he had a younger brother who was going to, who spent a lot of time with the kid, to step in and be an alternate dad in case, he succumbed to the things that people succumb to in their 60s and 70s. Anyway, so he had a well thought out plan. Anyway, it's also possible to be too young. I wrote a novel when I was 17, full of these, deep themes and, and epic, issues. And some people thought that what they needed to do was encourage me, go publish it, One person said to me, what I think you need to do, this is just my thought, is what this person said. If I were you, I would put it in a closet for 10 years. And then when you've lived some more and you've experienced some of these dilemmas, other than the usual teenage angst. We are so dramatic at that age. We think we know it all. We think we've experienced it all. And we haven't experienced anything. We've hardly lived in most cases. She said, put it in the closet for 10 years and come back to it when you have a deeper understanding of these tough issues that you're tackling here. So you can do a really good job with it. Not perfectionism, just, she didn't come right out and say, you don't know what you're talking about. She didn't. And she said it the way I said it, which was very loving. And there was a part, I meditated, because even back then I was a meditator. I meditated, and the quiet voice said, listen to Sally. So I put this thing in a closet, and I went back to writing some more stuff. And that was excellent advice, because at 17, I really did not, even at 19, it took me a while to finish it. I really didn't know what I was talking about. I thought I did, but I didn't. So it's possible to be too young to pursue a particular dream. It was so wonderful for me to actually put fiction writing aside for quite a few years and then come back to it. Nonfiction writing too. I was building my nonfiction skills during the intervening 20 years. And then come back to it when I not only could write better, which I could not do at 19, but I also had a deeper understanding of human nature and how people actually act and what the dilemmas are and that sort of thing. Instead of having cartoon characters, I now have real flesh and blood people. So it is possible to be too young. It might be possible to be too old, depending on what you're trying to do. Right? If you really want to make a living as an airline pilot, maybe 55, maybe, you missed the boat, dude. Find something else. Right? Find a way to monetize your private plane stuff. There are some occupations like mine, as long as I maintain my wits about me and I'm not preoccupied with my own health problems, I can continue in this particular occupation, because it relies more on the proper education, and then wisdom. So it's actually better. The older you are, within limits. This particular occupation is older is better. I know people who went back to law school at age 40. That's also something that age isn't an issue. You can, and the person I'm thinking about, wanted my help in getting a job, and she was pursuing two strategies. One was starting her own private practice, focusing on people who were over 40, who feel comfortable with somebody who's their age, who presumably, understands human nature and has more wisdom in terms of how they approach cases, because it's not just the case precedences and the law, excuse me, but it's also is this a situation where mediation would actually make more sense than a lawsuit or not, et cetera, et cetera. So excuse me. Need more allergy medication. So I hope this little exploration of finding your purpose, finding your life direction has been helpful in understanding some of the parameters, some of the ways that the tools that people use to discover where they want to go, what they want to explore. Some people take guided journeys to go visit your spiritual guides or your Reiki guides, or hypnotherapy, another type of journey. Some people simply meditate. Some people meditate and combine that with directed journaling, right? And just a little hint. Do not ask yourself, where should I go with my life? That is a big, scary question. There are other questions that you ask that spontaneously bring that into focus. But it's like you sneak up on it so you don't scare your conscious mind. There are techniques. And I know somebody who used yoga, not the let's be athletic exercises, but the meditative, the going within. The original meaning of the word yoga was this energy of insight and wisdom, right? And some people have used yoga in its wisdom manifestation to get answers to these questions. You don't actually need a guide like me if you do these other things. I will say that having somebody who can guide you does have the advantage of a second pair of eyes, a skilled, trained pair of eyes who can spot this really sounds like you're listening to wisdom versus this might be ego speaking. Let's go a little deeper and see what your wisdom, your true wisdom has to say about that. So and I don't want either myself or people of my occupation to sound like spoil sports. It's simply, if you truly want to find out what your true purpose and path is, you want truth. You don't want ego-driven fantasies. And I'm a big believer in not telling yourself that something is impossible. Don't do that. Get accurate information. Find out I'm 50 years old. Should I go to medical school? You can, but there's other ways to to get to your goal. If your goal is to be a healer, you could do what I'm doing. You could become an advanced practice nurse. Psychiatric nurses, for example, do tremendously wonderful work. If you're wanting to alleviate human suffering that way. If you decide that law just fascinates you, but you don't want to go to law school, you can't find any way to pay for it, and you've tried and you've tried, and you just, it's clear that the universe is not going to make this, forget about easy, even doable. Is there any other way I could practice in law without being, an attorney? Well, there are all kinds of legal assistants, the people who prepare routine paperwork. I did a divorce with somebody who knew how to, I paid her to fill out the paperwork. Uncontested, everybody's friendly and cooperative. And let's just fill out the paperwork. Or, they do paperwork for adopting your stepchildren, and, et cetera, et cetera. So, there's a lot of different roads. If you can know that you're really listening to wisdom, and it doesn't matter where the wisdom is coming from, as long as it's genuine wisdom. So, again, my name is Victoria C. Leo, Leo. Website is soaringdragon.biz, B-I-Z. My email is victoria.leo.reiki, R-E-I-K-I, at gmail.com. I hope that this has been helpful to you. And I wish you sincere blessings on your road to finding where the universe wants you to be right now in your life.